Hey, Glenn here, Monster Guitars. This guitar, Old Brass, which I have named for the very nice hardware that is going on it, is coming along and progressing nicely. In this video I route out the pickup cavities, I route out the neck pocket. Those are kind of minor details. One big thing I do though is I ponder the best way of drilling string through holes that go all the way through the body and come out straight at the back so that you get nice alignment there. That's a problem, and it's not just a problem for me. I see luthiers all over the internet saying, what's the best way to do this? I don't know if I know the best way to do this, but you can see how I did it. What else have I done? Well, I also should talk about the way that I bolt my necks on using threaded inserts, and I age some brass hardware to make it fit more nicely with the rest of what's going on this guitar. And as if that wasn't enough, it's not really a very exciting video, but I do a bunch of stuff in it. I unbox my very first set of really nice Forstner bits from Carbotech. So keep watching and do try to enjoy. What I do to hold my necks in is not the traditional neck screws like you'll find on a vintage Fender Stratocaster, but I add these threaded inserts which are then held in with machine screws and those washers you saw me with earlier. So it's been a while since I've done this. I'll go through my drill bits just to check what size these are and then make the holes and we'll be in business. So I've put the other three in first so that I don't embarrass myself on camera by damaging anything. Because these are quite a tight fit and a neck is not an especially wide thing, and it is quite near to the end of the neck as well, which increases the risk of splitting the neck when you try to drive something into it, which is why you must make sure that your hole is large enough. This is a 9.5mm hole, and there's a countersink, yes, a countersink cut into it. I've got a clamp on this nice and tight to try to protect myself against splitting the neck open, but go slowly. Occasionally reverse out and then go back in again. What you're doing is you're cutting and establishing a thread in the hole. And we're good. That is now just below the surface. So I use fairly large bolts. They're M6. I think I've seen people on other videos using M5. M6 just happened to be the size of the threaded inserts available in the first store I went to when I tried doing this, and it worked, so I keep using it. Because now that the neck is fitted, I can get proper alignment lines drawn onto the body, and I can get the location of the other parts sorted. So now that I know where the pickup cavities must be, before I use my router on them, I'll remove some of the material using a Forstner bit. Now I have several Forstner bits that could do the job. However, I'm going to use this opportunity to do an unboxing. This box comes to us, actually it came to me some time ago, from Carbotech. Carbotech is, well, they're a retailer. Oops. Mostly an online retailer. I think they started in Australia, but they also have an outlet here in New Zealand. And it is a rather impressive looking sawtooth forstner bit set. And I don't pretend to be an expert in forstner bits by any means, but I know there are several types. Not all of them have the sawtooth on them. The sawtooth is where the edge has that serration on it. But I thought, I'll give these a go. So they have a reputation for being, number one, a little bit on the pricey side sometimes. But on the other hand, the stuff they sell is generally very good, which may have something to do with the price. It sometimes does, I'm told. Now this is interesting. I'm gathering they use the same container for both their imperial and metric forstner bit set, because I don't know if you can see this, so I will zoom up. You probably can't read that anyway. I got the metric set, and I can see the number stamped on every bit is the metric number, so that's 38 millimeters. But the container itself is stamped with the imperial sizes. That's not really ideal. Ideally, the two should match. So that's 38 millimeters, but on the container it says 1.5 inches. 35 millimeters, 1 3/8 inches, and so on. Seems like a bit of a cost-saving operation that I wouldn't have expected. Okay, is what it is. Is what it is. Do you get bothered when people say it is what it is? It doesn't really bother me, but I know it bothers some people, because of course it is what it is. What else would it be? Well, my battery is about to run out, if it hasn't already, but I will say that went in silky smooth, and that is a very clean cut. That was easy to make. So, packaging issues aside, that seems to be a really nice bit, and I'm glad I have it. I use acrylic pickup cavity templates that I found on eBay. I'm sure there are a number of manufacturers of these things, but this one is made by a Chinese manufacturer called Kaish. I assume that's how it's pronounced. It looks like it. And I stick them onto the body using the masking tape and super glue trick, which I find works best. I've seen some woodworkers kind of mock this as this idea that amateurs share, when really you should just use double-sided stick tape because it's simpler and better, or what have you. The reason that I use this method is that I find masking tape comes off wood better, and it's less inclined to leave residue on there. If you find that double-sided stick tape works for you and you don't want to try this, that's fine, but I've tried both and I do prefer this method. If that does need to go any deeper, then I don't need the template anymore, because there is a perfectly good cavity. I'm preparing to drill the holes through the body, because the type of bridge that this is requires that I use the string through method. And I just thought I would pause to comment on just how nice this bridge is. And the reason I'm doing that is sometimes you'll hear people extol the virtues of buying hardware that was made in the USA or made in the UK. And I'm sure most of that stuff is great and very deserving of the praise, but then people will suggest that if you buy inexpensive Chinese products, they're not going to be very good. I don't know if that was ever true, maybe sometimes, but it's certainly not the case here. I've taken the saddles off, and bagged them up, and we can look at those later. They're very nice, they're vintage style saddles. But this is a real quality piece of work here. This is solid brass, or at least if it's not, it's a very good impression of solid brass, and it doesn't matter to me because it looks so good. Very solid, quite heavy, great workmanship. There are grooves there to make it easier to slide those saddles back and forth for intonation. I'm not certain on why they selected just those saddles for that purpose, but they didn't need to include those at all, I suppose. But this just looks great to me. Okay, on with the task. Now, I have always struggled, and I know that other luthiers have struggled as well, to find the best way of drilling holes through the body. And that's because even when you use the bridge plate here as a template, yes, they're all going to go in at an evenly spaced location, but the drill bit can, even a good drill bit, can travel slightly to the left or to the right as it goes through the body. And the thicker the body, of course, the worse it's going to be. How do you avoid that from happening? How do you avoid that? How do you prevent that from happening, I should say? And it's very difficult to do so. I'm not sure that there is a method of ensuring that the drill bit doesn't travel. So you don't worry about that. What you do is you drill more or less halfway through, or thereabouts, from this side, and then you drill all the way through using the end holes, and then you see, I've already detected a problem with that idea. So you drill through, and then you put this plate on the other side and use it as a template, and then the holes sort of meet halfway, which is good enough because it just has to be able to enable the string to easily thread through. But of course, if the drill bit travels at all for this one and this one, your alignment is still going to be off. How do you ensure? I'm not sure. I still can't see a foolproof way of doing it, and I shall have to keep learning more about that, but I am going to try and use that method for now because I think it will give me a better result than I have been able to obtain so far. Right, so the holes themselves seem to be, they could be an imperial size, but they're just a whisker over 4.5 millimeters. So I'm going to use a 4.5 millimeter bit. Yeah, I will. Oops, dropped a chisel. Right, now I'll put this bit in my drill press and drill halfway through, and then I'll come back to you. Well, I'm back from the drill press. I've drilled all 6 holes at least halfway through, but the end 2 I have drilled all the way through. Now obviously I can't screw this plate onto the back as a template, so I'll just have to hold it in place while I start these 6 holes. And same thing again, I'm just going to put indentations on the surface, very shallow holes. Now I can see that these indentations are pretty nicely lined up. So if my final holes are that well lined up as well, well then mission accomplished. Are they perfectly lined up? They might not even be. Surely the holes in the plate themselves are lined up. Where is it? They're actually not. I mean, you couldn't tell by looking, but they are misaligned in just the same way that my holes are misaligned, and that the end ones are slightly further back towards the end of the body. But it's quite hard to notice, and at least the overall arrangement is symmetrical. So I'm just going to go with that. It's better than what I think I would do if I was just trying my best using another method. that's interesting. Okay, back to the drill press. Now I've set up my depth stop, so it won't go all the way through. It'll just go a little over halfway. Now I can feel that that's gone all the way through the wood, which is good, into the other hole. Now I'm going to hope and assume that if I hold this up to the window, I will see light clearly through every hole, and they look like just about perfect holes all the way through. They might be slightly imperfect, but they're easily good enough to string through the body.